Hello folks, this is Alan recording another comprehensive draft video for Magic the Gathering Arena. Today I feel like I want to do some Throne of Eldraine draft. Of course that 2020 has came out already, but I do have a real life paper draft going on tomorrow and a pretty fun event. And I wouldn't mind some practice before I get started. Of course I'm already familiar with the set and the power levels and first picks and the options in this draft, but uh, hopefully, yeah, we can get some nice wins going, some nice games, and overall learn a lot more than uh, I can help you guys learn a lot more than you uh, would need to know. So let's begin. All right, pack one, pick one. Our rare Castle Gambrig isn't anything too exciting that you want to first pick in limited. 4 mana tap to add 6 green mana isn't something that you really want to do. There should be enough mana accelerants in green, such as the Rosethorn Acolytes, maybe even a Golden Goose or a Spinning Wheel that you can play, which can enable the ramp that you necessarily need and also provide a nice creature or an artifact onto the battlefield that you otherwise um, don't have. It's pretty decent either way as a late game. Let's just say this is being passed around late in the pod. It's fine to pick this up if you're already in green, but I wouldn't first pick this. It doesn't really add anything special. It doesn't really control the battlefield or place a nice body or provide a nice combat trick that you otherwise wouldn't do. But so I don't know. I wouldn't first pick this card. I think it's a bit of a trap. Um, Looking at the uncommons, we have some pretty good ones. Deathless Knight is an excellent payoff card for the black-green foods deck. Does require a lot more build around and work, of course, but if you're able to do it, it's a permanent creature that you can constantly revive over and over and over again, unless you don't have enough foods to spend. But pretty powerful if you can constantly return this card and constantly cast an attack with this card. But again, you would need the um, food synergies in order to have this get going. So I wouldn't necessarily first pick this unless there's nothing else good in the pack, of course. But a pretty great, excellent card if you're already settled into that archetype. There's a Savvy Hunter, which is great. It's the card that you're looking for if you want to play Deathless Knight in your deck. Does put you into 2 colors right away as a pick one pack one, but it's definitely incredibly powerful if you can again play this simply in a black green deck. Um, this is a constant food generator, so definitely a solid staple in a black green deck that you would want to play. Provides foods for cards like Trail of Crumbs and of course the Deathless Knight, Bognati, um, and again other excellent food payoff cards in this set. And also, it's also a payoff by itself since you can simply sacrifice 2 foods to draw a card, and sometimes drawing a card has a lot more value than simply gaining 6 life. I mean, gaining life is definitely excellent, of course, but drawing a card sometimes has a little bit more upside. And would prefer Savvy Hunter over Deathless Knight simply because it is it's the food enabler more than the payoff card. So yeah, Savvy Hunter seems like a great first pick, even though it's in 2 colors. I think the power level is definitely up there, and this is definitely an A+ solid card. Looking at the commons, what stands out? Pretty okay card. Gambrick Paladin is an excellent 5-drop curve topper if you need one. Been quite impressed by this card. The fact that it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less is great, making this a quite invasive, difficult creature to deal with. Everything else is okay, like a golden egg is fine to help fix mana or, synergize with the black-green food stack. Cauldron is a nice, fine removal spell in case you don't have much in your deck. 4 mana, deal 3 damage to target creature at instant speed. Believe it or not, it's pretty solid. It's so the more flexible options here, like Garenbreak Paladin, Scalding Cauldron, maybe Bear Witches, and even Golden Egg, are fine. But the power level of the cards definitely don't compare to something like Savvy Hunter at green and black. the fact that this can constantly generate value, and quite an annoying threat that the opponent needs to answer right away, and also provides food to enable for other powerful green-black creatures, is definitely makes this card a solid A+ card. So I don't mind taking this as a double color card. It's just that the power level of this is just quite high compared to the rest of these other choices that I'm just going to take it here and maybe try to force myself into black green in draft. Otherwise, the flexible cards are fine, but they're not too exciting. They don't they're fine cards that can usually wheel later in the upcoming packs, and they can be quite replaceable at times, but a Savvy Hunter just has that unique effect that can't be replicated, and it can definitely go off if this goes uncontested. So let's take the Savvy Hunter here and maybe kind of force ourselves into a black-green deck. So let's take it. Follow up with the Savvy Hunter. What do we pick up? Wintermoor Commander is an excellent payoff card in a white-black Knights deck, but again, it would be another dual color that we might have to speculate on if we decide to pick this. Same with the Occam Ranger, nice adventure creature for 4 mana. The fact that you can create 2/1/1 human creature tokens is a slight upside, and then afterwards casting this and on the board is really nice since it's a free pump effect per turn, which the opponent needs to answer right away unless they want to face a board of a bunch of creatures that are looking to smash you for a ton of damage. Looking at the commons, there's a Charm Sleep as a flexible removal spell at 3 mana. Not as good as maybe something like Trap in the Tower or like Epic Downfall or Big into a Pie, since it doesn't really deal with activated abilities. But sometimes you just need a removal spell, and Charm Sleep just gets the job done. What are commons like Giant Skewers? Okay, if I really want to commit to the black-green foods deck. And it's a fine weapon that I wouldn't mind carrying, of course, but definitely not as powerful as the uncommons here, or maybe even less worse than Charm Sleep, since it's just a removal spell that you want to prioritize in limited. The other green cards are not exciting. Not a big fan of Garenbrig Squire in a black-green deck either way. It's just a mediocre 2-drop, and black-green has a few adventures, but you don't really want to prioritize that. You want to prioritize the food synergies for the most part, so I can see myself passing this up. Garenbrig Carver can be a fine pump trick, but that's also replaceable. So overall, not a great follow-up to a black-green foods deck. If I want to just commit heavily to it, I think taking a Giant Skewer, it's a fine pickup, but again, these tend to wheel, and I don't necessarily want to take this over the other powerful uncommon cards or the flexible Charm Sleep as a fine removal spell. So again, I guess this pack is again just another gamble on what I prefer. Like these two are like great dual color payoff cards for their respective archetypes. So if I want to go the green-white adventure, Occam Ranger is a great payoff. If I want to move myself into black-white Knights, Wintermoor Commander is an excellent payoff. The more flexible choice would, again, be Charm Sleep, but I don't think I'm going to end up... I mean, either way, I don't think any of these 3 cards would fit in with Savvy Hunter too well as their first pick. Maybe Occam Ranger can kind of work if I can get this out for 4 mana. I might not necessarily use the Sorcery Adventure, but if I go like Savvy Hunter into a heavy green deck, I can potentially cast this, and I can place this on the battlefield and have a free pump effect every turn, which isn't too bad to consider. So yeah, the more flexible option, I mean, would be just the Occam Ranger, I guess. It can still be fine, and it's still a great card in green-white Knights, green-white Adventures. It can still be particularly feasible with our first pick. The pick that best fits with our first pick is, of course, Giant Skewer, of course, but it's not too exciting, and these can get passed up. Sometimes just picking a more, like, uncommon that's harder to find is better, since the power level is worth it. Again, I could just gamble on Black-White Knights, of course, which could be more open, and this is just an excellent 2-drop overall. But Occam Ranger is great nonetheless. I think I'm just going to take it here, and I could, decide if I want to move into Black-White Knights. I mean, Black-White, Black-Green Foods, or Green-White Adventures. But all these cards are kind of like just speculative picks, of course, but I think the power level of Oaken Ranger is definitely there. And even in, a heavy green food stack, I don't mind playing this. So let's try to speculate here. Alright, well, happy to see a Sir Comrade. Nothing in this pack compares. Again, there's Vembral Knight as a nice one-drop in any white deck. Charm Sleep again, the fine removal spell. And the other green card's not exciting. Sir Comrade just wins games by itself. So it's a great reason to stick with, black green foods for now and just take the Sir Comrade. Not a non-human, so you don't get too many synergies with that, but the fact that this can just win games by itself again with its mana sink ability in the late game, or once it hits the battlefield, it makes it quite difficult for the opponent to chump block, or makes it difficult for them to attack since they'll lose life in the process if you trade off creatures and maybe do like trades or double blocks. Is quite significant. Yeah, great body, 5 mana, 5/4, not much to ask. Can win games by itself, seems like the absolute pickup here. Probably one of the best uncommons in the set, along with cards like Keeper of Fables and the Edgewall Innkeeper. So I think I'm going to take it here, and taking this kind of gives us an option if we want to move into like a heavy black-green food stack or a heavy green-black food stack, or, I mean, either way, it makes sense to, just stick with black-green and maybe abandon the Oaken Ranger if this heavy green doesn't work out and we don't have enough mana fixing for it. But definitely an excellent follow-up, so let's take it here. Alright, now looking at this pack, what is there to consider? Shepherd of Flock is an excellent adventure creature. The 1 mana spell can bounce back creatures to save them from maybe a removal spell at instant speed. Also can retrigger, can return adventure creatures so you can recast them again for their adventure ability. But I think followed up with Sir Comrade and Savvy Hunter first pick, I think we just want to force ourselves into black-green foods right now, and Reef Soul is just one of those excellent removal spells that you can absolutely take. Of course, it does have diminishing downside since it can't deal with big creatures, but there's a lot of small flyers in the set and small creatures with low power and mana accelerants that you don't mind just removing early in the game, like that Reef Soul is definitely worth taking here. So I think I'm just going to take the Reef Soul, obviously, makes sense, and force ourselves into black-green foods. So let's take it. Alright, now there's a Mad Ratter as the best card in this pack, but obviously doesn't fit well with our first 4 picks. When you're looking at this card, you're obviously thinking red, blue card draw. You could find some circumstances and situations to make maybe Mad Ratter work in like a non-red blue deck, but it's a little bit harder to enable off. But it can still be fine if you have enough like card draw at instant speed, like Thrill of Possibilities, which can enable this. But overall, Mad Ratter can be a trap if you are in red and another color besides blue. So when you're looking at this card, I'm always thinking of this as a dual color red-blue card. But either way, it can be fine if you can get going. Looking at the black and green cards, I'm a big fan of Reaper Knights. Definitely makes sense in a black-green foods deck. This is a black card that you're looking to play in a more controlling, slower, grindier black deck, like black-green or black-blue, of course. Not the best card in an aggressive, black-white Knights deck or black-red Knights deck. But overall, has a nice Mind Rot ability at 4 mana, and then in the late game, you can play this as a nice evasive attacker. Definitely a fine one-of that I don't mind picking up in for us. Otherwise, there's Malevolent Noble it's a 2-drop with a slight upside. Insatiable Appetite can be a fine pump trick. But best cards pack is Mad Ratter, followed up by a Reaper Knight. So I think I'm going to take it here. Obviously makes sense. So let's take it. Alright, Once in the Future is great. Don't know what the bots are smoking. This card shouldn't be going late in this pack. In a real-life drafting scenario, yeah, Once in the Future is just a great card. Plays well with cards like Forever Young. It's even fine without Adamant, of course. The Adamant is definitely a nice upside since you can just place those 2 cards straight away in your hand. But sometimes you don't mind missing out a draw step with the Once in Future because the card that you get on top is something great and excellent that you are retrieving from your graveyard. Definitely going to force myself into black-green foods after this pick. Other great cards I wouldn't mind is maybe like a Foreboding Fruit, and as a nice value engine in the late game, especially if you can pay for Adamant, you can get food from this. Return Natures, actually, I don't mind main decking as well. There's a lot of artifacts and scary enchantments in this set. You can also exile cards from the graveyard, like maybe a Lochmere Serpent or a Feasting Troll King. Once the opponent tries to get the effect, once they try to pay the cost for it, you can just instant speed this Return of Nature and exile that card before they can get it back from the graveyard. So Return of Nature is definitely a great card. I don't mind main decking in this set, and I would definitely do so. It has saved me from a lot of problematic situations that I otherwise couldn't have. But obviously, once in future is the pick here. So let's take it. Alright, don't mind a Forever Young. Ginger Brew can be okay as well. Golden Egg could also be pretty solid also in our black-green foods deck. We currently don't have too many ways to generate food other than this Savvy Hunter, so maybe I wouldn't mind picking a Golden Egg. It's a fine way to cantrip, can also help fix our mana, and also, of course, synergize with any other food enablers that we can pick up. Ginger Brute would also be fine, but I think the card draw is more relevant for a Golden Egg. Ginger Brute is better off, believe it or not, in a more aggressive-oriented, slanted, Knights deck or Green-White Adventures deck, simply because you want to equip this with weapons or pump this with pump this with other spells and to get in a bunch of evasive damage. Definitely plays well with cards like All That Glitters as well, serving as another artifact that can get pumped. But really, I think it's just two choices here: Forever Young or Golden Egg. Given that we have Sir Comrade, and I don't mind taking the Forever Young here. Definitely not something you want multiple copies of, but it can be definitely fine as a one-of. Great with once in future, of course, since not only can you once cast Forever Young and get back a bunch of creatures, but you can also once in future this back. To do the same effect, and it plays well with Sir Comrade as well, so I think the upside is worth it taking over a Golden Egg. But these two cards are close. I could use, again, a lot more food, but we haven't picked up enough food enablers yet. Savvy Hunter is a food enabler by itself, so it does fit well to Golden Egg as well. So these two are close, but I think in the long run, Forever Young has slightly a little bit more higher power level, since if you're playing against a mill deck, for example, or if you're running out of playables, and Forever Young can just fetch those creatures back, so you can play them and clog up the board again. So hopefully the opponent doesn't smork you to death. So let's take it here. Alright, Insatiable Appetite on mine as a pump trick. Definitely plays better food, but even then, giving a creature +3/+3 sometimes is relevant and can help make a favorable trade, or push in damage that the other, and close out the game in case you need it. So let's take it here. Don't mind a Cauldron as a fine removal spell. We only have a Reef Soul for now, and potentially Insatiable Appetite as an inconsistent combat trick. But yeah, I've been quite impressed by this card. Even at 1 mana, and paying this for 4 can potentially get off an annoying blocker flyer that you otherwise couldn't have. Removal tends to be scarce in Limited, and you want to maximize as much as you can in Limited. Otherwise, there's just threats that you can't answer on the board, and Scalding Cauldron has a lot of targets in this set, especially flyers that you don't want to use a premium removal spell on, like Bacon to a Pie, and you rather just use maybe like a cheaper removal spell like Reef Soul and Cauldron. Don't mind taking it up here. Prophet of the Peak can also be fine, but it's also replaceable as well. There should be enough big green creatures in green that you don't really need like a 6 mana 5/5 when the rest of them has a lot more upside. So let's take the Scalding Cauldron here. Nothing makes sense here. Lash of Thorns can also be like a nice, fine sideboard card in the best out of 3 scenario. But I would rather play this in, like a Black-White Knights deck or Black-Red Knights deck, which tends to have small creatures, than Green cards, simply because sometimes, let's say you're playing against a big green deck, you have no way to, attack across and kill off the big green creature. Sometimes it might be feasible to 2-for-1 yourself just to get off the board, and Lash of Thorns help with that. Um, there's a Garenbreak Squire in case we don't pick enough 2-drops. Again, definitely a 2-drop that I don't mind cutting, but we don't have any 2-drops yet, so in case we don't pick up enough 2-drops, I don't mind taking Garenbreak Squire, which can help as a fine filler 2-drop, so let's take it here. I wouldn't mind a Rosethorn Halberd. Definitely a great card, a better card in like a red-green non-humans deck. But in green-black, there's plenty of non-humans too running around that you don't mind taking this, especially if you pick up cards like Keeper of Fables or Gingerbrute. This can actually help squeeze in a little bit of damage that you otherwise couldn't have done, so let's take it. Could be heavy enough that maybe Hengewalker works out. Not amazing, even a 3-mana 3/3 can be okay, but, you don't really want to play a 3-mana 2/2 that you need to kind of force with Adamant to at least make it decent. But, you never know. We could just be heavy green, maybe end up playing the Occam Ranger or heavy black. So let's take it. Maybe Witch's Cottage works out, and we can try to force heavy black. Alright, so looking at our first pack, looks pretty exciting. Our standout cards are definitely the Sir Conrad, the Savvy Hunter, the Once and Future, and the Reef Soul. Great reason to just stick with black-green. What we're looking for right now is maybe some better 2-drops, some better 3-drops, some food payoffs for the black-green deck. Something like Bognati, Trail of Crumbs would be amazing in this. In the next pack, Wicked Wolves will be a great 4-drop that we can replace with the Occam Ranger. But overall, pretty solid start. I think our deck can definitely get there. I definitely think we have a quite high, solid power level to begin with. So let's move on. Alright, pack 2. Well, Opportunistic Dragon is great, but I don't think it's the pick here. We have some pretty excellent black cards in this pack as well. Valmir Light is an excellent uncommon, replaces itself at 3 mana by helping us draw a card and dig deeper into our deck. And then the 1 mana Death Touch is definitely great. This card is fine in a black aggressive deck or even a black controlling deck as a nice value generator and a 1/1 Death Touch creature that can hold off something potentially scary in trade-off. The Order of Midnight is also excellent as a nice value card. We already have a Forever Young, however, but it can still be fine to have a copy of. Can be a nice 2/2 evasive attacker at 2, and also can fetch a free creature that has died. Forever Young does this almost the same thing, but the fact that this again can be a 2/2 attacker and also an early game value, an extra value enabler is great. So that's fine. Witch's Oven can be fine in the black-green foods deck, especially if we pick up like a Cauldron Cat, a Cauldron Familiar. If you can get the 2-card combo, that can be a pretty nice strategy in draft to drain the opponents over time and also put out a nice chump blocker. But again, it's high variance. You either pick up the cat or you don't. And the cat is also in uncommon that's difficult to find in the pack. Looking at the rest of this, there's a Reef Soul as another great removal spell that we could take here. We currently only have like 2 removal spells like the Cauldron and the Reef Soul, and we could use another one, so I wouldn't mind picking up that. So this is a pretty hard, difficult decision to make. I don't think it's the Opportunistic Dragon, even though I wouldn't mind first picking this in the draft. These are some pretty excellent uncommons and commons. So the question now is, what are we looking for, to be honest, and what fits better in deck. Order of Midnight can help trigger Sir Conrad once, but that's not all too particularly exciting. But it can also retrieve like our Savvy Hunters or Conrads in case they die. But we already have a Forever Young that kind of fills the similar role. But it can be a fine 2-drop, but this also can't block. We're not looking to be an aggressive black-green. Black-green is not looking to be aggressive, however. It's looking to be more mid-rangey, You're not looking to kill the opponent too quickly, and you rather, might play a little bit more control-ish and slower. That I can see myself maybe picking up the Falmer Knight or the Reef Soul. Valmir Knight again, you can draw a card off of this, which is nice, and then put a 1/1 Death Toucher, which is great. So, I mean, really, it's an incredibly difficult decision to choose here. Even the Reef Soul would be excellent as a fine removal spell that I wouldn't mind taking. Forever Young, again, does the same role that Order of Midnight already does. Once in the Future already does the same role, actually. So the Alter Fate, even though it makes our deck even a lot better, it might not be necessary for us to um, have another recursion spell, especially with these two spells already that kind of functions a similar role. Like Once in Future can also retrieve back creatures, and removal spells, Forever Young can retrieve back creatures. So maybe I can try to ignore this Order Midnight and focus maybe on Falmir Knight and Reef Soul. Now in terms of removal, we have a Cauldron and a Reef Soul already that can deal with small creatures. Or another Reef Soul would also be excellent, but again, there can be diminishing returns, especially if you don't have removal spells that deal with giant threats. You could be stuck with like a double Reef Souls, two Reef Souls, and you aren't unable to deal with big creatures like Opportunistic Dragon or another Reaper Knight or Keeper Fables, and you can kind of get blanked by a second Reef Soul. I mean, having two is definitely excellent. Having an Order of Midnight is definitely excellent. But I think Falmer Knight gets kind of like the slight nod, simply because we currently don't have a card draw besides maybe the Savvy Hunter. But then you still need double food to enable this. Like Once in the Future and Very Young are kind of like pseudo card draw in the sense that they're just value engines in the late game. Which pretty much covers what Order of Midnight can do. So I don't mind taking the Falmer Knight just to make our deck have a little bit more diversity that we otherwise couldn't have done. But I think these are all close in power level. But yeah, I think we just want to diversify our deck. You never know what interesting synergies that Falmer Knight can grant for us. We could pick up some Barrow Witches that I wouldn't mind playing, and they can retrieve back Sir Comrade and also Falmer Knight. I guess Barrow Witches could also fetch back an Order Midnight 2, and Order Midnight can fetch it back, and you can just go off as an infinite combo with those two cards. But again, Forever Young and the Once in Future already fills the role that Order Midnight already does. And I don't know if we want to main deck double Reef Soul. I mean, it would definitely be great, but again, you do run into situations where you deal with big creatures, and having double Reef Soul in your hand can be kind of awkward since it can't deal with them otherwise. Farmer Knight can at least be a Death Touch creature that um, makes it difficult for them to attack past and trade off unless they want to lose their big creature, and also helps us dig deeper in their deck. So let's take a gamble here and take the Farmer Knight, but all these three cards are definitely close in power level, so let's take it here. Alright, any good cards for us? There's a Thunder Snapper at quadruple green, but we currently don't have any mana fixing for it. I mean, even then, there's already an Occam Ranger that we were considering, but I don't think we want to go that route. Like, we do have Once in Future as a heavy animate green payoff, but we also have double black. So I don't know if we want to take a Thunderous Snapper here. I think it's stretching it too far. Shambling Suit, how many adventure artifacts and enchantments do we have? Not much. We have a Halberd, a Cauldron, and a Hengewalker, but I don't even know if we're going to play Hengewalker. We can generate foods, I guess, so this can be okay. By the end of the day, it's still at 3 toughness, which can easily get double block or traded off. So I don't know about this. It's not an amazing card in limited. I think I'm just looking at the Golden Egg here just as another nice food that helps us fix our mana for Adamant, perhaps. Also draws and replaces itself, which is nice, and can potentially enable some food payoffs that we otherwise haven't picked up yet. But let's take it here. Seems pretty solid. Not amazing pack 2, but overall I wouldn't mind taking this, so let's take it. Alright, anything for us here? Wandermere, don't think I'm going to try to splash for it. Nice white-green adventures payoff, but we already have excellent black cards I don't want to take. There's a Trap Tin Tower that I can also splash, and I would prefer splashing it over the Wandermere, but we haven't picked up any fixing besides a Golden Egg. No Rosethorn Acolytes yet. There's a Forbidding Fruit, which can help draw us dig us deeper into our deck, of course, at 3 mana. The Adamant is definitely worth it, but even without Adamant, it can be fine as a turn 3 play, which can help dig us deeper into our deck. Swordsmaster, I wouldn't mind. Better off in a Knight's deck, of course. But still, it can be feasible as a 2-drop in the black-green foods deck. The lifelink can be decent, and also, it can trade off in the early game against an aggressive opponent. I think the two choices here are just between the Foreboding Fruit and the Smitten Swordsmaster. We currently don't have any 2-drops, so it could just be a desperate call to get a Smitten Swordsmaster, of course. But we also don't have much card draw besides maybe a Falmer Knight and a Savvy Hunter. But really, I think our deck really desperately needs a 2-drop, and I don't mind taking a Swordsmaster. We don't have much Knights besides maybe a Farmer Knight and Sir Conrad, but that's okay. Even as a 2-2 with Lifelink, this can be fine. We could use better card draw, of course, but maybe like Farmer Knight can help us cantrip. The Golden Egg can help us cantrip. Savvy Hunter can potentially draw us a card if we need to, and I think the higher priority now is just for us to have a solid curve. Otherwise, we're going to get run over by aggro, and that would suck. And sometimes Foreboding Fruit can have diminishing returns too, since you're going to lose 2 life, and let's say you're facing against an aggro deck, you don't really want to cast Foreboding Fruit on turn 3 and lose a bunch of life. Even though this does dig us deeper, I think it's more important to stabilize in the early game. So I think Swordsmaster gets a nod over Foreboding Fruit. Alright, now what? Don't mind me a Curious Pair as a 2-drop, also generates food. Don't think I need a second Forever Young at this point with also Once in Future. Don't think I need an Insatiable Appetite. Wicked Guardian would also be excellent in the Black-Green Foods deck. Doesn't pair well with Knights, of course, in the Black-White Knights deck. It can still be feasible, but if you're looking to play an aggressive black deck, most of your creatures tend to be low on toughness, and you don't get too many ways to trigger this. This plays well with Savvy Hunter, Comrade, Reaper of Night. I guess we don't have too many high toughness creatures to consider over here. And I don't even think I'm going to end up playing Hedgewalker in the first place. So I think Curious Pair gets a nod over the Wicked Guardian just as a decent 1-mana play to create a food token, which is solid, and then a fine blocker in the early game. And again, 2-drops are important. So I think I'm going to take the Curious Pair over the Wicked Guardian. Alright, Trail of Crumbs, definitely what we're hoping to see. Currently don't have any excellent food payoff cards, but Trail is definitely great, and we definitely are looking for payoffs. Makes a food when it enters the battlefield, so that's great. And also, for every food you sacrifice, you simply pay 1 mana colorless, which can fetch you a card for the turn. Of course, doesn't help you find stuff like Reeve Soul, of course, or Once in Future, or Insatiable Appetite, or your instant and sorcery spells. But it helps you find your permanents and playables, such as maybe Sir Conrad, Reaper, etc. Basically everything here I just moved. Definitely a powerful card. We have a Savvy Hunter, which can potentially go off, and some food already with Curious Pair and Golden Eggs. So I think it's obviously pick here, definitely over Curious Pair, so let's take it. Alright, now what? There's a Gingerbread Cabin. Wouldn't mind a Wildwood Tracker, believe it or not. Black-Green isn't looking to be hyper-aggressive, of course, but sometimes, even a 1-1 in the early game can be nice. But however, our 2-drops are a bunch of humans, so this isn't going to trigger too often. So I guess maybe the Gingerbread Cabin gets a nod over the Wildwood Tracker. This card does play well if you have Marrowleaf Riders exactly on turn 2. And it does play well with our Halberd, but I think most of our 2-drops currently are like humans. I'm looking to play Curious Pair and Smitten Swordsmaster. Probably not the Garenbrig Squire, but overall I don't really want to play a 1-mana 1-1 at the end of the day. And also, Savvy Hunter is a human, Sir Conrad's a human. So even for a black-green deck, we have plenty of humans. So this isn't going to trigger too often. So I think I'm going to take the Gingerbread Cabin here. Maybe we can kind of go into a heavy green build. And I prefer Gingerbread over the Witch's Cottage since we already have some recursion spells. And an extra food sometimes helps, so let's take it. Okay, Rosethorn Acolyte's great. Don't mind taking it. Can help fix our mana, help us ramp into our 5-drops and our future late game cards. A great non-human. Can help fix our mana. We can actually end up splashing for a nice bomb in green. Maybe let's say in the next pack we open up Lockmere Serpent. Our Golden Egg can enable a splash. Rosethorn Acolyte can enable a splash. So we could consider splashing a third color, but for now, Rosethorn is third 3-drop that we otherwise can't play. Don't mind a Garenbrig Carver, can also even replace the Insatiable Appetite as a combat trick. Also plays a creature as well. So I think I'm going to take it here. Another Insatiable Appetite. Don't think I'm ever playing Tall as a Beanstalk unless it's best out of 3 and I'm kind of weak to flyers. I don't mind playing this. But we already has Insatiable. We might play an Insatiable in the Carver and cut 1. We'll see. Okay, I guess a second Garenbrig Carver. Hopefully I don't play it. I guess a Lock 3 Gargone wouldn't be the worst thing. It can be a fine blocker in the early game. The 4 mana cost to make this into a 2/3 flyer is also not amazing, of course. But I mean, it can be a blocker in the early game. I don't think, again, black green isn't looking to be aggressive. The Kiri's pair, I mean, the Garenbrig Squire we already have one is a pretty bad 2-drop nonetheless. So yeah, maybe we take the Gargoyle. Hopefully, don't end up playing it. Now we have a second Squire. Anyways, don't think we need a third one, but I'll take it. Okay, alright, the second pack was pretty okay. Trail of Crumbs was a standout card. The Falmir Knight was a standout card. I did like the Rosethorn Acolyte, but everything else, but other than that, it's weaker than our pack 1. Hopefully our pack 3 delivers. We could use a Bacon to a Pie, a better removal spell, some better 2-drops that can replace this Garenbrig Squire, some better food payoff cards like Bognati would definitely be excellent, but I think our food is covered with the Golden Egg, the Trail of Crumbs, and the Savvy Hunter. We definitely need more payoffs for them, so let's move on. Alright, an Embercleave. Too bad we had to pass this up. And even in a, even a real life draft, I probably have to pass this up, given that there are some pretty solid green-black cards in this. We could even do a Bell of the Brawl as a pretty solid 3-drop. In terms of knights, we have a Smitten Swordsmaster, a Falmir Knight, and a Sir Comrade. But I don't think we're going to attack too often with a Falmir Knight, of course. So the Knight synergies aren't that amazing, even if we pick up a Bell of the Brawl. But it's still a feasible 3-drop, quite a nice aggressive attacker that can maybe chip in a few points of damage as a 3-drop since it has Menace. Don't think I'm taking Enchanted Carriage over the Fierce Witchstalker. Fierce Witchstalker fits perfectly in the deck. We could work on the 4-drops. Our 4-drops aren't amazing. They kind of suck. This enters the battlefield, makes a food, and also a nice trample lure that pairs well with our weapons. So obviously the pick here. Otherwise, there's a Searing Barrage that I wouldn't mind splashing. Bellabra, again, I wouldn't mind playing. Not a big fan of Enchanted Carriage in a green deck, but definitely great in other archetypes since green tends to already have big creatures that you would prefer, like this Witchstalker over the Enchanted Carriage. But we did pass up an Opportunistic Dragon. Feels bad that we passed up all these red bombs, but sometimes that happens in draft, and you just gotta deal with it. So let's take the Fierce Witchstalker here. Right, Order Midnight's great. There's also a second Trail of Crumbs, but I think 1 can be fine. It depends on how much food we can try to enable with this. We have Savvy Hunter that can go off, but that's only if it can survive and not get blocked by a big creature. Fierce Witchstalker comes in with a single food. Kiri's Pair comes in with a single food. Golden Egg is a single food. Trail of Crumbs comes in a single food. This would be amazing, but we already have one. It would be absolutely insane and absurd if we can pick up like a Gilded Goose, of course, which is an invasive flyer that can generate food without attacking or blocking. But I don't think it's the pick here. I think it's the Order of Midnight. I think it gets a nod over the Marrowleaf Rider. Otherwise, believe it or not, I might even consider taking the Marrowleaf Rider over the Trail of Crumbs. I mean, we do have a solid food base already, and we could use again another food payoff enabler, of course, such as a second Trail of Crumbs. But we already have one already, and I don't think we need a second one, especially if we need some creatures to attack and block with, and some better 2-drops. Overall, yeah. 2 would be pretty absurd, but I think right now, we need the Order as a nice evasive attacker for 2 mana, and also a good 2-drop. Marrowleaf Rider again would be a great 2-drop, and I think I need an upgrade over these Garenbrig Squire since they look pretty bad. I mean, they can get trigger maybe off, some of our adventure creatures, but at the end of the day, a 2/2 that doesn't have any evasion or any other extra upside doesn't seem too amazing. The Order of Midnight can just go off with like Forever Young, and also the Once in Future. Like you can fetch a creature back, Order of Midnight dies, since it's a target that they need to deal with as a 2/2 flyer, and then you can retrieve it back, and then you can what am I talking about? This can only retrieve creature cards, but still great nonetheless. Yeah, I guess my logic for not taking a second Trail of Crumbs is that even though we have a decent amount of food enablers, I don't think we can make room for a second one unless we can absolutely make a million food. Of course, this deck doesn't look to make a million food. I I think for now our food enablers are fine for a single copy of Trail of Crumbs, like 1, 2, 3, 4 food generators, and Savvy Hunter like can run to situations where it can't go off. So there's some variance whether or not it can go infinite with food. So I don't know if I can encompass another Trail of Crumbs. So I think Order Midnight here is the pick. Mereleaf Rider wouldn't honestly be bad because we do have some foods to sacrifice this to maybe force some trades. But obviously the higher power level is definitely Order Midnight since it can do a lot more than the Mereleaf Rider could otherwise. So let's take it. Alright, a second Reef Soul. Obviously the pick over the other green cards here. And the black cards, nothing comes close. Other great cards still in this pack. Arcanist Owl. For Rossi the Wild can do some absurd things in red, blue, or red, green. But other than that, Reef Soul is obviously the pick here. Alright, another Golden Egg I wouldn't mind. Could make a case for splashing for a Searing Barrage, of course. Like in terms of removal, we do have a double Reef Soul, a Scalding Cauldron, and that's it. We don't have any Bognatis or anything. We could, I mean, I guess our combat trick can kind of be like pseudo removal spells. I mean, I guess we can kind of build our deck now. Maybe just cut this Locked-in Gargoyle. Hopefully, I don't play Akiri's Pair here. I'm liking all these cards. Cauldron seems fine. Forever Young, double. Maybe Insatiable Appetite can go, or a Garenbray Carver. Don't know if I can make room for quadruple green for an Okan Ranger, but the fact that you don't need to pay mana to use this ability can be kind of nice. And we are kind of trying to get heavy green adamant for the Once in Future and this Gingerbread Cavern. I don't think we need to prioritize heavy adamant black just for a Witch's Cottage when we have all this recursion. Okay, let's fix this glitch. Just go back to home here. So I can see myself cutting this Witch's Cottage. So that leaves us at 22 cards, so we could use a lot more playables. In terms of mana fixing, we do have a single Golden Egg and a Alkalite, so maybe we could make room for a Searing Barrage. I don't know. I guess an egg is a lot more consistent. It can still be food I can sacrifice for the Savvy Hunter to draw a card. It can still be food for Trail of Crumbs that can help me draw a card, and this also replaces itself, which is fine. And it's kind of a little bit risky maybe putting a single mountain into our deck, especially if we're trying to enable green adamant, for example, to splash for a Searing Barrage. But after this second pick, Golden Egg, I could definitely splash for a Searing Barrage if it wields or trapped in the tower. But for now, let's kind of just make sure we have the mana fixing before we try to splash for a Searing Barrage. So let's take it here. Golden Egg here. Sporecap Spider I don't mind, and we do have a huge hole at 3, so let's kind of move our interaction spells here. True drops are not looking amazing. Falmer Knight's more of like a 4-drop, but it can still be a fine 1-drop, so I think I can keep it. They seriously need to fix this glitch. Let's back out here again. Yeah, let's I guess I wouldn't mind one of Garenbray Squire, but it's definitely on the cutting block. Insatiable Appetite is on the cutting block as well. But let's kind of move our drops. I guess if we're going to play heavy green, we can definitely make the case for Hengewalker. How good is Gingerbrute? We can pump it with we can put a Rosedorn Halberd onto it. We can potentially pump it with the Garenbray Carver or Insatiable Appetite and make an invasive attacker. So, I mean, I guess we kind of have like a mid-range green deck. We're not hyper-aggressive. I don't need a Gingerbrute. I think we need a Sporecap Spider. Like, we're kind of weak to flyers. We do have some removal spells against them, but we don't have much Breach. Also, Order Midnight can't really block as a flyer. Reaper of Night needs to attack and gain flying, so I don't mind a Spore Cap Spider as a fine blocker at 3. Otherwise, Malevolent Noble can be a 2-drop with some slight upsides, or maybe I would even just take a Ginger Brute over it, because it can chip in a little bit of damage. It's also food to sack. But I think our food is good for now, and we aren't looking to be hyper aggressive, so let's take the Spore Cap Spider here. It makes sense. Marrowleaf Rider seems like a good 2-drop. There's a Searing Barrage that I can splash for now. That's tempting. So we can kind of build our deck. I'm going to move this Gingerbread Gabbin on the sideboard. I guess Gambrick Carver is a pump spell and a creature that I can play over the Insatiable Appetite. I could even play a Occam Ranger in this deck, believe it or not. I'm not going to use the Adventure too often, but even then, you know, looking that we're going to play heavy green with the Gingerbread Cabin in the once in future, I can make a case for this Occam Ranger. Hengewalker can also be playable at 3 if we're going heavy green. I like the double golden eggs to help fix mana. I guess I can cut this Carver now. And our 2-drops aren't looking amazing. The Falmer Knight can be a 1-drop, but I want to cast that exactly on 3 just to draw a card and play it. So yeah, I definitely need to make room for our 2-drops here. This can be a deck, however, that I can miss out on a 2-drop and just you know, move on to our 3s and hopefully just survive. And Searing Barrage can be a nice spell to splash for. Again, I do need to make room for Adamant, of course. I don't know. The more riskier choice will be to splash for this Searing Barrage, and our removal is not looking too amazing here. But again, I mean, Marrowleaf Rider is just a consistent 2-drop that I can play on 2. Doesn't ask much of us. And it makes more sense, kind of, in our deck. I don't know. What's our win condition? Maybe Sir Comrade can just build them to death, or, you know, make them lose a ton of life. Reaper Knife can gain flying in the late game. But, I mean, the Searing Barrage is a good removal spell, but you really want to cast this Adamant. I guess I can make the argument that you really want to cast this for Adamant and deal 3 damage to the opponent's face. That is not worth it. Even then, it can deal with a big creature, but sometimes the opponent could have something with more than 5 toughness that this can get blanked. So yeah, I can see the case of just taking the Marrowleaf Rider and staying consistent here. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind splashing this, but let's take it here. Don't mind the Tempting Witch as a 3-drop. There's also a Toonvale Treefolk that I don't mind playing as a curve topper, but we have Reaper and Conrad as our curve toppers already. The Tempting Witch can give us an extra food, can potentially drain them out, I guess, deal 3 damage to their face, and maybe finish them off. It's also a fine blocker at 3. So I think we have a huge incentive to go Adamant with green, so I might go just 10-7 in this deck. Most of our double black cards are looking to be played in the later game. So yeah, I can go 10-7 with Adamant and then have a Gingerbread Cabin in this deck. And we're currently at 23 cards. I think we're going to go 17 lands, even with like a Rosethorn Acolytes. Our Golden Eggs can help fix for black mana or even Adamant. Or even this Occam Ranger. It's kind of close. Like, Tempting Witch is not amazing. Like, a 3-mana 1/3 blocker at the end of the day is not great. It is a cheaper card over Toonvale Treefolk. Toonvale Treefolk, however, doesn't have any evasion. It's just a big creature at the end of the day. And it's not really a solid win condition, I guess. It can grow our creatures a bit at 4 mana, so I can see this as a 4-drop. But I think maybe Tempting Witch has slightly more upside, given that it creates a food and it can maybe deal 3 damage to the opponent's face to finish them off. Don't think I'm playing double Ginger Cabin. I can, but too many tap lands. It's kind of bad. Don't think I'm playing a Jousting Dummy. Maybe we can make the case for double Spore Cap Spider. Who knows? Yeah, I already have like double Garenbrick Squire. Maybe we played double Gingerbread Cabin. Oh, second Marrowleaf Rider. That's great. Happy that wield. Fell the Pheasant's a sideboard card. Tall the Beanstalk. Sure. All right. Taking the uncommon for gems. All right. Seems pretty nice. The third pack and the second pack weren't too amazing. Like the third pack gave us like an Order of Midnight. I guess that was fine, and some Marrowleaf Riders. That's good 2-drops. So now let's kind of see our curve. Let's move the interaction spells onto one side. So I think we're going to go heavy green here, maybe just go 10-7. I can make the case for, and a single gingerbread cabin seems fine here. So that's 9-7, so it's still 16, so we need to add an extra land. Yeah, I think I'm going to go 10-7 with a gingerbread cabin. Too many tap lands can be bad, and we should have enough food. How many foods do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, and 7. So we have 7 foods, so it should be enough to enable this Trail of Crumbs to go off consistently. Cards that we can consider cutting. Let's see. How good's the Halberd? We do have a bunch of humans. Valmir Knight. Order of Midnight's a human. Spin Swordsmaster. Kiri's Pair. Tempting Witch is a human. Savvy Hunter is a human. Yeah, I don't think this is a deck that's going to use Halberd, so I can see that being cut. I can see ourselves being heavy green that we can play an Occam Ranger. Again, the tap ability doesn't require us mana, so once we just get 4 mana and cast this can be pretty nice. The bring back can be fine, but I don't think I'm going to use a Sorcery Adventure too much. I might just cast this exactly on 4, and we can try to get this as a pump spell that can smash the opponent. So let's move kind of like the... I guess I can cut a Sporecap Spider. I don't mind it here. I guess Hengewalker is not all that amazing, but since we're going heavy green, like a 3/3 can be a fine blocker. But we are kind of weak to flyers here, that I don't mind a Sporecap Spider, so we can just cut the Hengewalker. Because, you know, it's just a 3/3 at the end of the day. But I think we're trying to win with Sir Comrade, maybe a Reaper Knight, and we can try to drain them, the Tempting Witch as a win condition, that we're not looking to maybe particularly smash the opponent all the time. So I can see this being good. Definitely looking like a 17 land deck, and we definitely need to play the extra Adamant for the Occam Ranger. We should be solid in terms of blockers in the early game, and with our 2-drops, we should also be fine to help trade off and block. That this is looking good. Or Spin Swordsmaster does have synergies for our Knights too that can help drain and deal a couple points of damage, so I think I'm happy playing this as a 2-drop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 early game. I guess we can count these as 2-drops that lead us into our 3-drops anyways. They need to seriously fix this. This is retarded. Why? Get back in our deck. What the hell is this? Sorry, it's just this stupid... Don't know what's with that glitch. They seriously need to fix that. Okay, yeah, just over-analyzing here. This seems like a 4-drop almost, or a 3-drop, or a 1-drop. This is a 1-mana play. The Golden Egg seems fine. So we have like how many early game creatures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That seems decent. And some early game plays that leads to our 3-drops here. So that seems fine. Garenbray Carver can serve as a pump trick. That can... I guess I can cut... How many creatures do we have? 16. So we can still cut a creature. I don't know why I took out this Forever Young. I could just end up playing it and maybe just cut the Garenbray Carver as kind of like a mediocre pump trick. Like, I mean, Occam Ranger is going to pump for us regardless, so I don't think we need a Garenbray Carver to do all the pumping when we can just activate this to pump our creatures in case we need to get an attack in that we otherwise couldn't. One Gingerbread Cabin. I can make a case for 2, I guess. But I think 1 should be fine. Again, I don't really want to have too many tap lands, since it can cost you games sometimes. The Halberd, again, too many humans. We have double Sporecap Spider for Fell the Pheasant. I guess I can see the case of cutting 1 Sporecap Spider, but I still want to make sure I have 15 creatures to help block and potentially trade off. I don't think I want to main deck another non-creature spell. Sageful Appetite is a pump trick. That I don't care. Garenbray Carver is a pump trick. That I don't care about. I'm not a big fan of pump tricks. Sure, maybe you can get like a trade in your favor, or sometimes you can cheese the opponent out with the extra pump damage. But it's a temporary spell that activates end of turn, so usually you just get one turn of using it and it's over, while you rather have like more devastating permanent effects can affect the game in the long run. So yeah, I can see myself taking the Forever Young over the having zero pump tricks in this type of deck. So yeah, I think I like this. Double Golden Eggs helps us cast for Adamant, Cantrip, and maybe help us fix for mana. I think I'm liking the 10-7 here. Yeah, I think this is solid. So think I'm gonna upload a part 2 video, but for now, yeah, just if you want to see this is the draft portion of our nice black green food stack. All right, so yep. Stay tuned for our part 2 video.